Hey, what's up, everybody? One coach opinion, and just remember, it's my opinion and not a fact. Well, in this case, some of the stuff is going to be factual, but most of it's going to be opinionated. I mean, based on facts. That's where my opinion comes out. Just don't grab it out the air. My opinion is based on my experience and facts that I've checked. Or I read somewhere. Even if I didn't check it, I can let you know where I got my info from. Anyway, let's talk about the BOHACHUK Fox fight and what really went down, how it went down. No excuses. I'll let you know from the outcome. I felt, and this is just from being at the fight and watching a few clips on YouTube that wasn't really like the whole fight, but I kind of felt that BOHACHUK, I'll give him the harder punches. I'll give him, Myke landed more punches. Myke gave more angles. I think that definitely was a knockdown. I mean, knockdowns aren't based on power. They're based on, like I said, he did his interview himself. He said, I was off balance and I got hit. That's a knockdown. Nobody's claiming it was a hard punch knockdown. There's a difference between knockouts and knockdowns. Knockdowns happen because of that. Catch a guy off balance, catch him with a good shot, or you stun them, one or the other. But they're not really based on the power of the punch. It's based on, did you hit the canvas? And he hit the canvas straight on his ass. I don't know, and if it had been a double hand push, I could see if he did a double punch. But he hit him, he reached out with one hand, and BOHACHUK ran into it, and I guess he was all bounced and got sat on his ass. It's a knockdown. Will that knockdown have changed the scoring? No, it would not have changed the scoring. So if that's the case, give him the knockdown. Just say it was a knockdown. That's all I've heard Michael say on his interview is, congrats to BOHACHUK, great fight, but that was a knockdown. I mean, if you want to debate whether it was a knockdown or not, okay. Anyway, so here's how it starts. We get offered a fight at 154. Myke accepts the fight at 154. This is probably around 5 weeks, 6 weeks out. A couple weeks later, Tony Jetta calls. He says, he can't make 57. Now, we're talking about 5 weeks out from your fight. He can't make 57. How do they know this? I don't know. Y'all want to give him 3 pounds. Okay, we'll up the price a little bit. We'll give him 3 pounds. And we agreed to that. So, we get out there, and I kind of knew something was up. The first time I knew something was up, they sent somebody to Myke's room to weigh him. And like I said, Myke was on the executive floors. We were on, they gave, we were on the 3rd floor. Myke was on the 8th floor. We on the 3rd floor. I'm next to him or anything. I'm in that room. I'm trying to telling them, nah, man, we'll step on the scale when it's time to step on the scale. What are you talking about? I'm taking no pre-weight. So I have seen people do this before, and they normally do this. I've seen a promoter do this before he hands out per diem. If you're not within like 5 pounds of your fight weight, he's not gonna give your team per diem. You're not gonna not make weight and get a free trip. So I've heard promoters do this, but there was no need for this time. There was no need. We had already got per diems and everything else. So like I said, they just sent somebody up here to weigh me. I said, you get on scale? He's like, yeah. I said, well, what would you weigh? He was like, I was weighing 156. All right. I was like, next time, don't get on scale. So that's when that first time I knew something's up. I said, this guy's overweight. This guy's overweight. So gets down to the weigh-in. What they called, Jetta calls again. They want to bump the weight up again. This guy can't get past 162 pounds. So I was like, well, he's going to have to. He's going to have to try. It's his fight. He made the fight. He made the thing. He's going to have to do it. So we're going to stick where we're at. And so, I guess, the promoters are talking. And like I said before, and I say this to any fighter, before they care about you, they care about business. And any fighter can say, there's no fighter out here that's going to say, oh, yeah, man, they love me. They were all concerned about my health way before they were concerned about business. No promoter's going to do that. So before you say it's a janky business, it's not. Problem is, the fighter was supposed to come in on time. BOHACHUK comes on time. We're not even talking about these promoters. These promoters did a good job. It's BOHACHUK. He can't make the weight. So they want to boost it up. I said, nah, we're not boosting it up again. We'll wait till we get to the scale. Let's just see what happens on the scale. We'll go from there. Now, per California rule, per the rule of most commissions, that if a fighter still has to be in a certain weight of another fighter and stuff like that. So most likely they were trying to keep him in the 3 pounds. Look, you at least got to get to here, to 59 or something like that. That way, you know, you're within 3 pounds of the fight, and the fight can still go on. So, you know, I know the tactics and stuff like that. So I'm like, nah, we're not gonna change the weights. No, we'll wait to the weigh-in. We get down to the weigh-in, and now you're going against the big business. Nobody's really saying nothing factual. They're just saying stuff like, well, it's under the discretion of this. And no, there's rules. There's rules. You know what I'm saying? And y'all know the rules. But right now, you're trying to save a fight, and everybody's trying to kind of glimpse around. So what I've been told, if my fighter shows up, he makes weight, he gets his money. I talked to the promoter through the fight. Nah, he doesn't. You know, he might not get nothing. You know, it was nothing solid either way. So I'm like, well, Myke, look like they're trying to play hardball. They trying to play games. You know what I'm saying? We can walk on this, or, you know, you're taking a chance. But let me say this, because I know people will say this. When it came to the Devin Haney fight, I was one of the ones that say Devin maybe shouldn't have took the fight. The guy's 3 pounds over. He shouldn't have took the fight. So I don't want nobody to say, well, you said it for Devin Haney. Okay, difference being, when you're already making that big money, when you're already maybe a millionaire, you can afford to say, you know what, nah, we're going to walk on this. We all right. But when you're a young fighter, 30 years old, just about to be 30, you're married, your family expects a paycheck to come home. Because you're not fine, you're not taken care of, you're not all right at home. So it's different situations. In this situation, I left it up to my son. I said, look, tell me what you want to do. You know what I'm saying? You're the one that's going to be taking these punches. You know what I'm saying? Do you want to just stick with this and roll our dice on whether or not you get paid or not, and try to argue enough, or maybe try to get a lawyer, or do you want to just take this fight? His thing was, I'm gonna let's see what's going on. Let's see how we can work this out. I want to fight, you know. So we knew he was going to come in bigger, but, you know, if there's a chance of me kind of losing the money, yeah, you know what he's going to choose. He's a young, hungry fighter. Plus, he's a fighter, and that's all fighters want. They want to do what they have to do. They want to fight. So then, and when you ever have promoters talking to the fighter instead of the people that handle the fighter, and the people who really do the business for the fighter, it's usually a sign. Because they know who to talk to. Like, if you have a coach that's trying to get sparring through a fighter and not saying, well, what's your coach's name? Only reach out to him, try to get some sparring together. Something might be right, you know. That's why you have people around you to help you out in situations like this. So they're saying that he might not get paid. California commission is on the fence. They're not really saying nothing. They're still really trying to work this out. So I'm like, well, let's just get on the scale. Nah, we can't get on the scale, because if the weight don't do this, weights don't do that, it's not going to match. We have to handle this situation before we get on the scale. That's when I know the buffoonery's coming in. I'm like, Myke, what you want to do? He said, man, you know, they say where he's at and stuff like that. Can we bump the weight up to 160? So I know Myke wants to fight, so now I start throwing in, okay, we can bump it up to 160, but we'll do a rehydrate clause. I said, I'll give you fighters normally, because first they were saying, okay, the percentage he should be able to write up, percentage of his weight he should be able to bump up is 23 pounds. I said, I'm not going to let this guy weigh in at 160 and come in at 183. That's not going to happen. I said, what I'll do, I'll give you the 20 pounds. Now, if you fight 154, you better know that your opponent's probably coming in at 175. Easy. It's easy going to be about a 20-pound gain. You know what I'm saying? Everybody knows about cutting weight. But majority of people, if you're fighting at 154, when you finally come in the night of the fight, you're going to be at a minimum 15 to 20 pounds heavy. So I say, okay, take the 3 out, we get it 20 pounds, but I want the 20 pounds from 154, the initial weight. He can no longer be, I said by 5 p.m. And I made sure the rehydration clause was for 5 p.m. that night. You know, we fought around, I don't think with all those guys, we still fought around 11. He had a little bit of time to hydrate, but he had 5 hours. Let's say like that, if they fought at 10:30. So by 5 o'clock, he has to be 174 or the deal is off and Myke walks away with all his money. Is that a deal? The promoter said that's a deal. If this man don't come in, if he comes in anything over 174 at 5 p.m., the fight is off. He came in at 173.9. Myke, when they reweighed Myke was 162 point something, 0.2. It really wasn't for me to check. We knew Myke was straight. Anyway, so fight went on. We accepted the terms. Myke accepted terms. We knew he was going to be bigger. We get in there and we take the fight. And that's what happened. That's what happened with all the dealings before the fight. We took the fight. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, in my opinion, I thought the bigger guy was BOHACHUK. I mean, so he's going to land the telling shots. And I thought Myke did what he had to do. And boxed him and hit him, gave him angles, hit him here, hit him there, was touching him here, hit him with a jab. I haven't really had a chance to watch all the commentary, but from some of the commentary, I could tell it was a little biased. But I've always expected that. I mean, if the promoter's throwing the show, the promoter's hiring the people just airing it out, you can best believe. Because I actually went back to him and told him the situation, and the lady was like, "You want me to say this on the air?" And I said, "Ma'am, you know what? You're like a journalist. This is I'm just giving you the information. How you use the information is up to you. Now, if you don't feel it's worth saying on the air, don't." So I can't tell you whether or not she mentioned it on the air or not. But they were told that BOHACHUK was heavier. So even the stuff I'm listening at, well, you know, BOHACHUK's landing power punches. BOHACHUK's doing this. BOHACHUK's doing that. It goes along with what you were saying. I know somewhere along the line, she probably asked the other guy that did it, should I say this? And he probably was like, hell no. No, that's gonna make BOHACHUK look like a fool. Don't say anything about his weight. So if they didn't mention him being overweight on the broadcast, with everything was going on, you knew why. Because we actually told him in the interview what was going on and the weight and what should be going on. So that was another issue. Then here's a funny issue, right? So all in all, like I said, with the fight, let's finish that up. With the fight, I thought BOHACHUK probably landed the harder punches. I thought Myke landed more punches. I thought Myke, you know, I won't agree with the BOHACHUK probably controlled the ring more, the center of the ring. Not much of the fight took place on the center of the ring, but like I said, even walking in, Myke's 62 pounds. You know, he did the job that we needed him to do for the situation. You know what I'm saying? When you're fighting, you're trying to make it, you take fights like this, you take chances. That's the only way you're gonna make any money, unless you're gonna stay at home and make $1,000, $1,500 a fight. Just keep fighting local shows. Anyway, another thing that rubbed me a little wrong is we're in there, and you know, we're with UFC Fight Pass. So the guys, I'm not gonna say no names, the guys are driving the van, and then the guy starts talking about BOHACHUK, and I'm like, you know, I'm Michael Fox's coach. We're fighting BOHACHUK. But you're running your mouth, you know. I'm not saying this to him, just listening to him. Yeah, BOHACHUK, man, he's this, he's that, man. You know, I've been in the gym. I see him in the gym. I see him work. He works harder than everybody else, man. You know, if you do 1,000 push-ups, BOHACHUK will do 2,000 push-ups. Blah, 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 blah. So finally I'm listening, and I'm like, well, you know, I'm Michael Fox's coach, and that's my fight to fight him, because they were doing their Euros, so the fighters were kind of in the doctor's office, and it was just the coaches. We having, like, you know, van driver coach conversation. He didn't say it in front of the fighter. I will give him that. But he's talking, man, BOHACHUK's one of the hardest work. I said, man, well, let me ask you something. Because the other driver's kind of agreeing with him. Yeah, he works hard. I said, well, let me ask y'all something. If he works so hard in the gym, how come he can't make weight? Matter of fact, how come he can't make 2 weights? It probably just a tactic. It's just a tactic they're using, probably just to keep your fighter small or something. I said, yeah, but no. I said, look, all right, take my fighter out of it. Take my fighter out of this situation. We're just talking about, you're a fighter in the gym, I'm a fighter in the gym, and you say something to me like, I work harder than everybody in the gym, and I come back and say, but you don't make weight. How can you be the hardest fighter in the gym if you cannot make weight? Whole different situation, but just listen to the question I'm asking. Is this possible? Can you be the hardest working guy in the gym, but you don't make weight? Because that's the start of the fight, the weight. So, I mean, he was like, well, it's probably a tactic, and said, man, we'll see after the fight, and after the fight, he didn't really have much to say. I don't think he was as proud of BOHACHUK as he expected to be. Man, after the fight, we'll see. I've driven many of BOHACHUK's opponents. And I'm like, did you? How long is this fight past? But, I'm just like, I'm just letting you know the spill of things. And these stories I tell aren't to blast anybody. They're really for up-and-coming fighters. I'm giving you a chance to see what's going on because you're all going to go through what we're going through. Until you get to the point that you're the automatic A side and you win all your bouts, if you have any slips in your career, you will go through what I'm going through and what I went through. Just to let you know. So, the fight went on. We didn't get the decision. Myke, it's another fight, another payday. He goes home. Big fights like this can fatten your pockets a little bit. I'm not going to tell the business of what he made. The weight, they paid extra. They paid extra for the weight. We took the fight and we did what we had to do. Took the fight and he did what he had to do. I'm proud of him. I thought it was a good job, great job. Like I said, I definitely thought it was a knockdown at the end. You know what I'm saying? Even if it didn't sway the judge. At that point in time, I did argue for the knockdown because I was thinking, hey, look, it's like we've given a good boxing lesson. This could go either way. It depends what you're looking at. You know what I'm saying? I will agree that BOHACHUK controlled the ring, and BOHACHUK probably landed some of the harder punches. But I also have to agree that Myke landed more punches, gave him more angles, kept him confused. You know what I'm saying? And did his thing too. It all depends on what you're looking at. You know what I'm saying? But those were the facts of what went into the fight. You saw the fight. You saw the results of the fight. You know what I'm saying? And you can say, oh yeah, you can make excuses, blah, 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 blah. Most people that say that aren't in the fight world. This video, I do videos really for people in the fight world, fight game. You know what I'm saying? Coaches, managers, fighters. I really don't do my videos for fight fans. I'm not doing these videos to show. I'm doing videos in which my opinion on boxing matches from a boxer, a coach point of view, or that's what my videos are for. It's for boxers. You know what I'm saying? So really, if you're making comments and you're not coaching, managing, or a fighter, they're kind of irrelevant to me. So with that being said, this is just information, letting people know what you go, because you're all going to go through it. There's going to be a time you're going to do something on the scale. They're going to try to clink you off the scale. There's going to be some weight issue going on. Somebody's going to be trying to talk to you into something. Remember, this was a main event fight. We could have walked on this fight. You know what I'm saying? We could have walked. You know what I'm saying? It was a lot of maneuvering and begging and coming back and forth and, hey, man, can we do this? Can we do that? You know what I'm saying? And you got a guy, like I said, a young married guy who needs to take a paycheck home. Had situation be different, we probably would have just walked on the fight, to be honest. If you got enough money to walk on a fight, you'll walk on a fight. But if your wife is expecting some money to come home, or your girlfriend, or your kids, or your baby mother, or child support, or whatever, these are the fighters that get put in these positions. Not the Devin Haney's of the world, not the fighters that already made big money fights. The fighters that are still struggling to get there. This is what you'll go through. You'll go through situations like this. So I let you know how these situations work and how the fight works, how the fight game works. It's all on who you know. The promoters have a better relationship with the commission than any fighter will ever have. The commission get paid when this promoter keeps fighting in certain areas, so they work with them. You don't get the full truths. You don't get lies. They don't want to put themselves in jeopardy, but they don't want to give you all your advances neither. You know what I'm saying? They work with the promoter. Now, I'm not one to say that the promoter has an effect on the judges and stuff like that. But I'm not one to say they don't. You know what I'm saying? If that's the case, you might as well just get out of this field and say, hey, forget it. This is a crooked business. We no longer want to be in it. Because anything you do, whether it's you working at McDonald's and the head manager is cool with somebody that works here and they get better hours than you do, they get the weekends off. I don't care where you're working at, you're going to experience this. So this is how it takes place in boxing. And that's all I'm trying to give you a heads up for. That weight does make a difference. Selling weight problems, going to the scale, being able to get on the scale. Once you get on that scale, things become official. And then people have to stand on their things. So the commission, once you get on that scale, if it's not mathematically right to their systems, they're going to call a fight anyway. So they're going to keep you off the scale until you get this matter resolved. So basically, until Myke signed a new contract at 160, finally, this fight did not take place. So that's why a lot of people was wondering, well, how did he weigh in at 159 and Myke weighed in at 154? What weight were they fighting at and stuff like that? That's how situations like that happen, because I saw that on Twitter. People were asking that. So now you got the skinny of the fight. You got what happened. You got the whole deal. If you lose a fight, yeah, you lost the fight. There's no argument there. There's no, they cheated, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying none of that. I'm saying none of that because it doesn't matter how I feel. It doesn't matter what. It's still going to go like that. I mean, we saw Gabriel Maestre get stripped of a belt. And the commission still was like, well, we're not going to overturn it. We're not going to overturn it. Even though the whole world said, if you don't get your fight the way things work after a situation like that, a situation like this isn't going to get overturned. And the commission's like, well, you guys can protest. Come on, man. Where are the protest winners at? One coach's opinion, man. Like I said, live to fight another day. I'm proud of what you did, Myke Fox. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure all of your fans and all the people that expect to fight are happy with your situation and happy with the results. I mean, everybody wanted you to win up there, but I'm sure they're happy with your performance and they feel you didn't sit down or lay down or give up at any time, man. You soldiered it out. You know what I'm saying? And it was, it's in the history books now, but when you get a guy that's not ranked whatsoever, fighting a guy that's ranked #1 by the WBC at 154, that's not the fight I saw. I don't know if any of y'all saw that fight, but that's not the fight I saw. So, one coach's opinion. I mean, you can tell me what you thought. I'm really just in, or you can tell me your facts or your stories or whatever that you've had in this weight, because there will be millions if guys start talking about how they got effed over on the scale and stuff like that. One coach's opinion, I'm out.